Hi, I'm Dr. Marilyn Whitman. I teach in the management department in Culver House College of Commerce. It is a genuine honor and pleasure to introduce Keaton Smith. I've known Keaton now for well over a year. I remember the first time that I ever met Keaton. He sat in the dreaded front row of my class. And for many of my students, they'll tell you that I am not the nicest person the first day of class. But remarkably, Keaton kept this very gentle, positive smile on his face the entire time, which struck me. I can honestly say that I have never seen Keaton without a smile on his face. He is one of the most refreshing, positive, upbeat, inspirational individuals I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. He was so excited to have been selected as a Tide Talk speaker. And of course, when I asked him about the topic, and he said happiness, I thought, how fitting. He is so qualified to be talking about happiness and choosing to be happy because he does. I cannot think of anyone more qualified because he talks the talk and walks the walk. And I am a happier person for having known him.
Can everyone hear me? We good? All right, awesome. First off, let's have a round of applause for Dr. Whitman. Thank you so much for that. And let's have a round of applause for all the people who are putting this on, the Tide Talks exec board. So if I have not had the pleasure to meet you, my name is Keaton Smith, and I'm here to talk to you all about happiness. Before we get started, a little bit about me. So as this is the 16th Tide Talk, they had each of us find a picture of us when we were 16. And I look it. And that was actually taken exactly 5 years ago today. That was October 7th, 2011. So that's a fun little coincidence. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, or Brentwood, Tennessee, which is just south of Nashville, if you know where that is. And I'm a management major with a concentration in healthcare analytics. And I've actually had 5 majors since I've been here. I started out in chemistry. That didn't last super long. And then I moved to international relations, and then to classics, and then to history, and ultimately found my place in the business school with a management degree. A little fun fact about me, I collect copies of The Hobbit, and I actually have 13 copies. 11 of them are in English. One of them is in Latin, and one of them is in Irish. That's not impressive at all. I cannot read those last 2. I just have them to look cool. So. But I'm here for a reason. I'm here to talk about happiness. Now, happiness is intentional. But what does that mean? I'm going to break that down into 2 main words, happiness and intentional, and explain to you my thoughts on that. So to start off, let's talk about happiness, and just the history of how our society has viewed happiness. So in ancient times with Aristotle viewed happiness as the ultimate culmination of one's life and one's achievements. It wasn't something that you could really get until you died. Aristotle was a hoot at parties. And Socrates had similar notions about happiness. He said that all humans, all living creatures, desire happiness, and that it was directive and not additive. And what that means is that happiness is not based on the good fortune that you have or the circumstances that you're exposed to. It depends on how you deal with those situations and the circumstances and those fortunes. It's all about the intent that you put behind them. And finally, he mentions that harmonizing your desires is important to happiness, to make them in balance, to make them in balance with nature, in balance with yourself, and in balance with people around. Fast forwarding to today, our modern idea of what happiness is, we typically see it as a state of mind. You know, we all know people who go around and are just in really genuinely positive moods, and we feed off that, and we're able to be in positive moods because of that as well. It's a really contagious thing, and we all know that state of elation that comes whenever we feel what we call happy. And where that feeling comes from, the actual physical part of that, is from different neurotransmitters that are released through glands in our body. One of those neurotransmitters is endorphins, and what those are pain relievers. So whenever we're experiencing stress or hardship or pain, those are released to relieve those challenges that are happening inside of our body. Further, dopamine is known as the reward hormone. That's when we reach an achievement, we reach a goal, we do something that our body is appreciative of, and so it releases that hormone so that we can feel that sense of achievement. And finally, we have serotonin. Serotonin is also known as the sleep hormone. It's very associated with relaxation, and it's very important to reach levels of tiredness so that we can go to sleep. And all of these three, combined with other neurotransmitters, consist of those different states of happiness, whether it's just euphoria from something good that's happened, feeling relaxed and content with our environment, or any of the other numerous definitions we ascribe to happiness. So, intentional. What does it mean to be intentional? So intentional comes from the Latin verb intendere, which doesn't just mean to intend to do something, it means to strive, to pay attention to seek something with great effort. So it's not something that we do passively. It has to be active. It has to be something that we seek and reach for and strive for. It's something that we put a lot of ourselves into. So why am I here talking about happiness? Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Junior year was one of the worst years of my life, and this is my senior year. The summer beforehand, I discovered that I just wasn't happy most days, and I wasn't really sure why. I felt shunned, I felt unloved, I felt unwanted, I felt like just no one wanted me around, and worst of all, I blamed myself for all those actions. And because of those things, I isolated myself from the people that I know really cared about me and that I cared about, so that I wouldn't feel that rejection from the people that ultimately were not rejecting me at all. I struggled with depression, I struggled with anxiety, I struggled with suicidal thoughts a lot in the junior year. And all those things culminated in me reaching a point where I had to decide I didn't have to live passively in my own life. I could take an active role in my own happiness and in the joy that I experienced with people around me. And forced to ask me, am I happy? Why am I not happy? And most importantly, what am I going to do about it? And that's what I want to talk about today. So I found three things that really helped me reach out of that really dark place and into a level of happiness. And that's with intentional happiness through intentional appreciation, intentional removal, and intentional service. Let's start with intentional appreciation. So intentional appreciation is appreciation for the little things and gratitude for the big things. Now, the little things are things we experience every day. We enjoyed the lunch that we had. We got a good grade on an exam. We got to spend time with friends. For me, it's going to Zaxby's for lunch. I love Zaxby's. As you have read, I'm very passionate about chicken fingers. And the big things are the big ticket items in our lives. Family, shelter, food. The really important things that cause us, that influence us to be the people that we are. The things that we experience throughout our entire lives. Now, this is a dangerous thing, however. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "A comparison is the thief of joy." And that works both ways. If we compare ourselves to others and we feel a sense of superiority from that, that's not happiness. That's pride, that's arrogance, and that doesn't lead to an ultimate fulfillment of our lives that Aristotle had in mind when he was contemplating those ideas of happiness. And if we compare ourselves and feel inferior to that, we're just lying to ourselves about our own state. We allow ourselves to dig into those dark areas, and we just don't get anything out of that. It's purely destructive, it's not productive at all, and it doesn't add anything to our lives. Moving on to that. Intentional removal. So intentional removal refers to intentionally removing the obstacles in our way to happiness. Now, as you know, anything that is worth getting is going to have a lot of obstacles in the way to get there. The reason that we enjoy books, movies, literature, any kind of story, is because of the obstacles that are in the way of the characters. It's what makes it interesting. It's what makes it worth striving for. And we do that by removing the bad habits in our lives. That could be anything from you're not getting as good grades as you would like to get, so you aren't studying enough, so you study more. It could be that you're not getting enough social interaction with people, so you be more active with reaching out to people and interacting with them. It really takes a conscious effort and a conscious choice to reach that point. Choice itself takes up a large amount of mental energy during our day. The more choices we make, the more tired we feel. President Obama, for example, he only wears blue suits and gray suits, so that in the morning, he gets up and he doesn't have to decide what to wear. He just puts it on, and he has to minimize his choices during the day. A man like that makes a lot of decisions during the day. It's why we have daily routines. So that when we get up, we don't have to think about, okay, now I'm gonna brush my teeth, now I'm gonna get in the shower, now I'm gonna eat breakfast. We just do them. Now, intentional service. What does intentional service mean? It means not just serving the community, but also serving our friends. So intentional service to the community, that doesn't have to be some grand gesture. It doesn't have to be going to Hands on Tuscaloosa, which is next Saturday, by the way, October 15th. Shameless plug. But it doesn't have to be like that. It could be just picking up trash on the side of the road whenever you see it. It could be helping someone as they're carrying a heavy load and just making their lives a little bit easier. We also do that through service to our friends. And we do that by just talking to them, by figuring out what's going on in their lives, by taking a genuine interest in the other people that we know and that are part of our lives. How many of us have heard of the principle of compounding interest? Most people, I would hope so. And the idea of that is you invest a little bit today, and over time it builds and builds on itself, so that at the end of a cycle or the end of a process, you end up with a lot more than you started with. Well, that doesn't have to just apply to money, it can apply to people as well. Every day, we can make a conscious effort to have a random act of kindness for people, to invest in the people in our lives, and those build on each other every day, creating a personality of positivity and an environment of gratitude for the people around you. But don't just take my word for it, listen to an actual professional. Anyone who has taken a psych class, whether in high school or in college, has probably seen this. This is Dr. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'm just going to go through these real quick. So it starts at the bottom with physiological needs. That's food, water, warmth. Some people say that sex applies in that as well. And then we move up to safety needs. Safety needs are things like security and safety. It's having a shelter. It's feeling safe at night, feeling like you're able to go to sleep and have a good night's sleep. And those are the basic needs that we need to move up into belongingness and love needs. Now notice how we need to be able to achieve this base level and move up to safety, and move up to belonging, if we want to move up to any level at all. So as we move up to belongingness and love needs, that's having those intimate relationships with people that I mentioned before with intentional service. That's pouring yourself into others so that they can be better through you. And it's having a sense of belonging so that you know that you are important in their lives. Once those are achieved, you move up to serving needs. That's basically people that feed your ego, but in a positive way. People need to be able to have confidence to succeed in their lives. That's a universal truth. You need to be able to know that you're important to the people around you, and that they're important to you. Finally, after you've achieved all of these things, you move up into this level of self-actualization. And that's when all of your needs are met, you're firing on all cylinders, you're doing fantastic. But say you find yourself without a home, you find yourself without safety. Even if you're at self-actualization, you get bumped all the way down there, and so those needs are met, and then you have to climb your way back up to self-actualization. So it's very important to keep all of these things in balance constantly whenever you're going about your life. So, we've been talking a lot about it, but now we're going to follow the lead of our man Teddy Roosevelt and get action. So now what? I want to challenge you guys to find your own happiness. Now this is what's worked for me, but I'm not an expert in happiness. I don't want you to walk away thinking that you've heard the 3 steps to a happy life. Now, number 2 is going to blow your mind. It's not clickbait for the soul. It's not things that you can just think about once and read once, and you'll be able to actually have them in your life. It needs to be something that you have a habit of. It's a habit of appreciation. It's a habit of removal of obstacles. It's making it second nature. And it's a habit of being service. It's a habit of being a service to the people around you and having them be a service to you. It's just talking to people and asking them questions. How many of us have ever had a bad day? You're lying with your hands up. Now, whenever we have a bad day, how many of us just want to tell someone about it? We don't want them to fix it, we just want to tell someone. How many of us don't tell that person or someone in our lives because we feel like we would be a burden to them? And how many people actually feel burdened whenever our friends are telling us about their bad day? That's people over there. But if we create that atmosphere of genuine care for the people around us, that burden is lifted. It doesn't become a harsh burden to bear to help each other. It becomes something that we do gladly, something that we do intentionally, and something that we do second nature, something that we don't even have to think about. We need to ask each other questions. When you run into someone, when you run into your good friend, you ask them how their day is, be genuine. Actually mean that you want to know how their day is going. Don't just say, how's your day, because that's what people ask whenever they see each other. If they say fine, maybe ask, are you really? Is something going on in your life? Ask them about their worries. Ask them about their challenges. Ask them if they're happy. And if there's one thing that I want you to think about as you're leaving here tonight, I want you to ask yourself, are you happy? Thank you.